In this video, we're going to cover Zoho Marketing Hub settings, deliverability. We're going to review managing senders, domain authentication, and imprint details. So let's jump right into imprint details. Now, the imprint details is primarily used if you're emailing in Germany. Germany has laws that require specific information. You can see here, here's the information that it requires. If you have a tax ID, you can turn this one off. If you have a company registration number, again, you can turn this one off. I comply with. So if you put on German Telemedia Act, you'll see that all of these have to be filled out. There's no way to not fill them out. You click on other laws, then it actually allows you to choose which details will be imprinted in the email that you sent. Cancel. And so when you need to add this information into an email, you're going to use this as the merge tag. And if you have any concerns about whether or not you should be using this, click on Learn More right here, and this will take you to an article describing the use cases around the laws. All right, let's come back here to Settings and click on Manage Senders. So Manage Senders, this is when you send out emails, who's the email going to come from? Some organizations have multiple people that send emails. So if you have John and Jane Doe, John needs to be an authorized sender, and so does Jane. And so here you can see I already have one domain set up, but I'm going to set up another top level domain, or also known as a cousin domain. And so if we come up here and choose add sender, this is where I'm going to put in my new domain. And if this is the first time you're setting this up and you don't have a secondary domain, you just use your primary domain information. We're going to choose send verification email. And this is telling me that I do have a DMARC policy published, and we'll cover that towards the end of this video. So I'm going to choose OK here, and you'll see right here in my email I just received, and it's basically a verification email. And this is what I was expecting. Zoho is basically verifying that I have an email address that is valid. So click on verify email. You'll be taken to a page that says that you have been verified. And so we come back here to Marketing Hub page, and if we refresh here, we can see that we do have, we can now send emails from our new domain. And again, if you have multiple users, you're going to want to create, you're going to want to add senders and send those people verification emails and tell them to be on the lookout so that they can verify those emails. So we come back here to settings, we come here under domain authentication. And so this is imperative. In fact, Zoho actually requires you to have these done. The domain authentication is a way for you to tell the rest of the world that Zoho is allowed to send as you. You wouldn't want the person down at the end of the street to know your domain name and start sending out emails as if they were from you. You would want other email servers to receive those emails and say, hey, this person sending these emails are not actually authorized to send on behalf of this domain. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to tell the rest of the world that Zoho is allowed to send as us. And so every email that we send out of here, the receiving email server is going to say, okay, that's neat, you sent me an email, but is Zoho allowed to send an email? And it's going to do a lookup in your DNS, and this will check yes, and the email has definitely a greater rate of going through to not getting triggered by your spam folders. And so we're going to set up this new cousin domain that we set up. So we're here on this domain authentication, and so I'm going to choose setup. And you can see here it gives me two keys, SPF and DKIM, and basically these are DNS settings. You can find your DNS settings usually whoever hosts your website, be it GoDaddy or again whoever is hosting it. It's generally where you should start searching, but you'll know who hosts your DNS records, and you can make these additions. So this is telling you to add for the SPF. Well, let's talk about the SPF is Sender Policy Framework, and this goes back to what I was just telling you, that we publish who is allowed to send as your domain. In this case, it's Zoho. For DKIM, this is kind of a domain identifier, which basically every email that Zoho is going to send out, it's going to have a little bit of code or a little bit of text attached to that email, and we are going to tell the rest of the world what that code is here. And so when I send out an email and I send it to you, your email server is going to get it and say, hey, Zoho signed that email with this information here. And then it's going to go and check DNS saying, hey, is this the right information? Is this the right code? Because again, you don't want the person down at the end of the street to be able to send emails as you. And so we want to actually attach a code to every email that goes out. And so when we send to Gmail, Gmail is going to receive the email. They're going to do a DNS lookup. They're going to find out what our code is, and then they're going to match it to that email that was received, and it passes, then more than likely it will not go into your spam folder. And so how do we set these up? And so I think the two biggest providers here are Microsoft Cloud and G Suite. Now you'll notice if you open up your DNS settings, again each use case is going to be different, but you'll have to find your provider, open up your DNS settings. Here's Microsoft Cloud. So this is what should be in your, if you're using Office 365, this is what should be in your SPF record. Again, this is a text record. And if you're using G Suite, this is probably what you have in your SPF record. If you don't have these, you need to add these in. If you're using the Microsoft Cloud, put this one in. If you're using G Suite, put this one in. And so what this is telling us here is we need to add to the existing record here. And so I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it here, and you can see it has the VSPF1 and the tilde all. Now those are already in here, so we can take those out. We don't want to put those in twice. And so now we have this entry, and we're just going to insert it right here at the end before that tilde, space. So this is saying version Sender Policy Framework 1, and then these are the servers that are allowed to send as my domain. Microsoft Outlook is allowed to send, as well as Zoho. And Zoho has several SPF records. They have several servers that send out emails on their behalf. So if you're using CRM, you're going to have to add another one in here. If you're using Zoho Books, you're going to have to add another one in here. But I just wanted to drive this idea home, is that we have to add this SPF entry to your DNS records. The same thing with G Suite. This is the default one, and we know that we need to add this in there again because it tells us right here, and we're going to do space. And so I've already set this up, so I'm just going to do I'm going to hold off on verify while I show you the DKIMs. So for the DKIM, you're going to do something similar. You're going to go to your DNS hosting provider, and you're going to say new entry, and you're going to create a text entry, and it's going to ask you for your, if you look right here, it's going to ask you for your host name. Now this right here says host name to add 6744 domain key. So this is the most important part. That's the part you need to add. So you're going to create a new entry. You're going to say my host is this. So it's all the way up to the domain key. You don't have to actually enter in your domain, but just the part that Zoho tells you here. And then for the value, you're going to paste in this information. I don't think you could type it out manually. Definitely couldn't remember it, so you can come here and click this copy button and it'll copy it to your clipboard. And so once we have our SPF record set up and our DKIM set up, I'm going to go ahead and click verify domain. Now in this instance, sometimes it depends on your TTL, your time to live of your DNS provider, but this can sometimes be changed within a few minutes, or you might have to come back the next day and actually do verify domains. But if I choose verify domain, you can see that I have successfully verified for this domain, and for some reason my DKIM is not authorized. So let me fix that really quick. Okay, so I figured out why my DKIM is not working, and it's basically because before making this video I did delete my domain and I added it back in. And when you do that, it generally creates a new host name for you. So I have my Amazon DNS management console open here, so we're just going to create a new one. We're going to do new text record, the record name. Record name here is going to be 6730 underscore domain key. So we're going to do that. Control V. And then we're going to paste in the value here. Control C. Control V. Create records. Alright. So that record has been created. And so what we have to do now is wait for the internets to propagate this change out to the rest of the world. Sometimes this is relatively quickly if it's a new entry, so let's go ahead and try this. Verify domain. Okay, so it still is not replicated, so I'll pause this video until it is. Alright, so we now have both our SPF and our DKIM authorized. You'll notice this little DMARC. This is yet a third type of DNS entry that we can create that will tell the rest of the world who is allowed to send as you. So for instance, Zoho makes us have an SPF record and a DKIM. But the DMARC, what it does is it's another DNS records that says, hey, if you receive an email from my domain and it does not pass the SPF record or it does not pass the DKIM record, then I didn't actually send it, so just go ahead and delete that email. Now there are things you can do to make it so that it does not, that email recipients do not simply delete your email. It will process it as normal. But the idea behind a DMARC, which I encourage all of you to create, is nobody will receive emails from sending sources that do not have an SPF or DKIM. And I find that this is in websites. Sometimes websites, when you fill out a form, if the website is actually sending out an email, you do not have SPF and DKIM set up for your website, and so you do not want to enable DMARC because your website will fail because it's not authorized. So I hope this makes sense. I hope SPF and DKIM makes sense to you. DMARC, go ahead and Google that. And yeah, again, the idea here is now we have two domains, but we can, when we create an email campaign, we can actually send out from multiple people. So I hope that this made sense.